A circle full of dogs. We put in work. Let's go out there with a bunch of crazy dogs.
Giants fans, what is going on? We hope you like that brand new intro.
Love it.
What is going on, my friend?
Not much. How you doing, Spartan? Yeah, I love that intro.
Yeah, that was awesome. I don't know how we get away with it with the copyright, but that's not my problem. That is Craig's. So all the fans out there, welcome on in. Appreciate you coming through. Obviously, we're just here for the last breakdown of the upcoming game this season. Giants versus Eagles to end the year. There's not, I mean, what's resting on the line here for the Giants is the playoff spot, if you will.
Yeah.
Big thing on Twitter right now, Truth, is just going back and forth is, do you want the Giants to win this game so that they beat the Eagles, finally get a win in one of those columns because we've been losing them for so long? Or do you want to lose so that the Giants get a better draft pick? We understand the Giants are quarterback needy. Truth, what's your stance on this?
Come on.
I think I can already guess what your answer is because you're old school.
You know my answer.
Just win, damn it.
Yeah, win the game. Win the game. Yes.
Al Davis said it best, right? Just win, baby.
Yeah, just win, baby, and we'll worry about the draft when the season's over. Don't even worry about it now.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. And Truth, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, let's start because we didn't do the last Giants-Eagles breakdown, but the one thing I want to bring up about this game and about this rivalry is that it's been very troubling to the Giants for the last 15 years. I always go back to 2008 as the starting point. Yes, the Giants got owned a couple times in the early 2000s too. The Eagles were very good when the Giants weren't, so I'm not that made sense. Since 2008, it hasn't really made that much sense. The Eagles have been a little bit better. But it always seems to be this case. If the Giants are better than the Eagles, they split with the Eagles. If the Giants are evenly matched with the Eagles, they split, they lose both. And if the Giants are worse than the Eagles, then they get crushed in one. And then sometimes the Giants hang in there. But, I mean, there's been some crazy, stupid, comebacks in this rivalry, too, that infuriate us. If the Giants are in the fourth quarter, I need a 4-touchdown lead to feel comfortable with the Giants.
Yeah.
Because it's happened so many times, not just the Deshaun Jackson incident, but there's also that one, I think 2018, the Giants were down by 19 with Shermer at the coach, and then he took Saquon out in the second half for God knows what reason, blew the game. A couple years later, it was the Ingram game, down 10 points, blow that one. Last year they didn't really stand much of a chance in either of those matchups. That didn't really count. And when the Giants have won in the past, there have been some good moments in the last 15 years. 2011, they took care of the dream team with Victor Cruz's breakout game. Very refreshing. 2012, 42-7, Andy Reid's final game as an Eagles coach. Very refreshing. 2020, 2021, I will say this, Truth, and you tell me if you agree or not. The biggest accomplishment of Joe Judge is splitting with the Eagles because all the other coaches couldn't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it. So I give them props for that. But let me tell you, because you've been watching the Giants, for several decades. You remember a time where the Giants used to take care of business against the Eagles, or so we think. Describe what this rivalry meant to you, because you're from Long Island.
Well, look, I grew up. I saw the best of times and the worst of times with the Giants. Started in the early '70s, and boy, they had even worse teams than what we're seeing now. And then along came Lawrence Taylor, Bill Parcells, and a few other players. And the '80s were a great decade for Giant fans.
Yeah, much needed too, because that was 17 years of missed playoffs, right? And then you finally get 1981. Yeah,
that's right. A turnaround in '81. They make the playoffs in Taylor's first year, and Who did they beat in the playoffs? Their first playoff game, they beat the Eagles in
The Eagles.
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
In
and they were
Philadelphia.
the reigning NFC champions, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, they were, because they went to Super Bowl the year before, I believe 1980.
Yeah,
I believe, right? They lost to Oakland, didn't they?
they lost to Oakland. Yeah, they lost to Oakland while they were still Oakland. They became Los Angeles a couple years
That's
later.
correct. Yeah. So, and then the 90s they were good, competitive. They had some downtime, but then they got better again. 21st century came along, when Eli, and we enjoyed a few years like that. So I've seen the good, I see the bad.
Yeah.
So nothing surprises me. You talk about the Eagles. The Giants have played the Eagles in their history 184 times, and the Eagles have a slight edge, 94, 88, and 2 ties. So they have a slight edge, and they met 5 times in the playoffs. 3-2 edge. So, this is a rivalry, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And those 5 rivalries, I mean, look, the Giants 49ers have a more historical playoff rivalry because they played 8 times, spanning the 80s and up to 2011. But, that Eagles playoff series is catching up. But, what is it? 81, 2000, 2006, 2008, and last year, right? So that's 5 total matchups in the playoffs. I think the Giants have only played Dallas once in the playoffs, and Washington should be the same thing. I think it was just 1986 in the NFC Championship game. If anybody's got me wrong on that, please help me out.
Look that up. Didn't they play the Eagles in 2012 in the playoffs?
No,
they were 12-4 that year. Weren't the Giants 12-4 and they lost to the Eagles?
No, in 2008, the year after they won the Super Bowl, was the year the Plaxico incident, right? So they went 12-4 that year.
2008 it was, okay.
Yeah, 2008, and this is always where I say in the last 15, like that was the trip up year where the rivalry has not really existed ever since. There's a couple of good wins, as I mentioned, but that second matchup in 2008 when it was the first game the second game the Giants had to play without Plaxico, and the Giants just kind of had a turkey of a game against the Eagles up in New York, and ever since that moment, I swear it's just everything's gone the Eagles' way in that rivalry. That year they lost the Eagles in the playoffs again in New York. And, the Eagles would go to Arizona and lose in the NFC Championship game. But, I mean, again, then 2009 owned, 2010 owned. It's been a long stretch, and I tire myself out because, you're from Long Island. You didn't have to deal with the Eagles fans as much.
No.
I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. There were a few Giants fans sprinkled in there. But, when you grow up in Philadelphia territory, you really feel that animosity towards the Eagles fans just because of how hostile they are in general. And seemingly sometimes how proud they are of it. Like, that was always the one difference that I saw between Giants fans and Eagles fans. There were a bunch of people that were, a-holes at Giants games. Don't get me wrong. But, like, when that happened, I mean, Giants fans around them would be like, unbelievable that we have to deal with this, that people have to deal with this, men, people with their kids, stuff like that. Like, it angers other Giants fans.
Right.
With the Eagles fans, it's kind of like, there we go, classic, fellow Eagles fan. Like, and there's plenty of classy Eagles fans. I grew up with them. Trust me, tons of Eagles fans. But it is that difference. But they do love the football. The per capita passion for NFL football in Philadelphia is unmatched. The Giants have a big fan base. Don't get me wrong, but they play in New York City, right? So they already have to split it with the Jets. And there's so many people in New York because there's arts, media, all sorts of other stuff, and a lot of transplants that not everybody in the New York City area cares. So when you're in Philadelphia, you feel that passion around you. New York, it's there. You feel a little bit more in certain pockets of North Jersey, but, it's not like overall in the New York area. You don't really quite feel it as much. So I will say this, the Eagles fans perhaps made me a more dedicated Giants fan because that was their support. And it kind of like it enabled me to be more passionate about the Giants. I swear, look at that. I swear. But anyway, look, that's the history of this rivalry. So, let me ask
you something, Spartan. Have you ever gone to an Eagle game in Philly?
That's a good question. The funny thing is, because we were closer to the link than the Meadowlands. My dad had season tickets with my grandpa. It never even came up in conversation as to whether we would go to the Giants-Eagles game. Like, it never even been like, hey, what, so-and-so had extra tickets, want to go? Never. It never crossed his mind. When I got older, I never wanted to because we just didn't want to deal with the abuse. But I did go to one Eagles game that wasn't the Giants. Eagles Bears 2013. And I have to tell you, this is what I noticed. When you go into the Eagles game, the Eagles fans are fine. They're really not that bad. There's plenty of guys that are a-holes, like I was talking about earlier. But I think a lot of them are in the parking lot. Remember this about Philadelphia. That parking lot is huge, and it's right next to the city. People go there to tailgate because their buddies tailgating or whatever, get absolutely trashed, and just leave. Like they're not there for the game. So it's like that class of people who just don't care about, not getting too trashed before the game. Like that's who you're dealing with in that parking lot a lot, right? So I actually had a decent experience there, but I wouldn't want to be there. It's one thing to wear a Giants jersey. I wouldn't want to wear a Cowboys jersey there because that's even worse.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever been to an Eagles game?
Never in Philadelphia. Never.
Yeah.
Never. No,
Yeah.
I don't think I would do that. I don't think, based on what you're telling me and other people, I don't think I want to deal with that.
Just stick to North Carolina. I think you're fine down there. Well, you're in South Carolina. I apologize, but still
That's
not
all right.
that bad of a trip to Charlotte or Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I will say one more thing about the rivalry before we dive into the game. This is the one thing that does piss me off, Truth, and you give me your thoughts. But I mean, when you go to a Giants home game, especially when they're bad, and I understand it, and you just see a bunch of Eagles fans there, that infuriates me. Because there's a lot of times there could be a mob scene of Eagles fans there. I'm always like, Giants fans, please don't sell your tickets to that game. I know there's a lot in Central Jersey that will sell the tickets, give them up to a friend or something like that. But please show up to the Giants Eagles game at the Meadowlands. It'll help the Giants, please. And I get it. I mean, listen, if the Giants Stadium was in Long Island or north of Manhattan, that issue probably wouldn't happen. But it's such an easy ride up. Think about it. Chris and I live in the Philadelphia area, and it was very easy for us to get to the Meadowlands. They got to move that stadium so it's like an extra 45 minutes for those Eagles fans. You know what I'm saying? So that they're a little discouraged. All right. Anyway, enough about what I should have just told, a therapist about how much to save on the Eagles.
You save some money with me, right?
Exactly. I saved some money with you. I just have to pay you for the golf lessons.
Yeah, there you go.
Truth. So, I mean, let's talk about this game then. How are you feeling going into this? Because obviously the Giants lost the last game. They had a chance. They had a couple chances. But I still feel like the Eagles overmatched them. And it was like the one Eagles game the last few weeks where they looked kind of competent. But I don't know. Like the Eagles losing to the Cardinals last week gives me a little hope that maybe the Giants have a shot. What are your thoughts?
Well, they do. And the Giants did. The Giants lost that game against the Eagles. It wasn't like the Eagles beat the Giants. The Giants had opportunities, like you just said, and they just, and that's what happens when you're a 5-win team. You don't capitalize on other teams' mistakes like you should. Or you don't make that big play that a 10-win team would make. And this is what you have to endure, guys. Right now, being a Giant fan, we have to go through these growing pains. But they had a good chance of winning that game. They really did, and I'm feeling confident that they're going to give us at least a great effort like they did that last game. And it's going to be a good game going into the last, 5 to 8 minutes of that game on Sunday.
Yeah. So what do you, what's causing the decline with the Eagles right now? Because they are not looking nearly like they are last year. I mean, there's reports that Sirianni might get fired. There's
I know. You mentioned that off air. I was shocked when I heard that.
And there's apparently locker room problems. Now, apparently they went and did one of the escape room together for team bonding. But how does this happen, and how does that affect what's going to happen on Sunday?
I don't know. I know they had, believe it or not, the Eagles had a lot of changeover. They got added a lot of young plays this year because a lot of guys left the free agency, and perhaps these young guys, they're hitting the wall a little bit, you would like to think. And there's probably some injuries, nagging injuries that's taking its toll. I see on there, Jay Ferris is saying Hurts has regressed, and possibly so. He doesn't look, when I watch Hurts, he looks like he's not, doesn't want to be bothered sometimes. Maybe that's just his mannerisms. But he's not a very emotional guy. Doesn't really show emotions. but they have struggled and they made mistakes. I mean, I watched that game a little bit last week with the Cardinals, and we have some Eagle fans where I work, and they were like, they thought they won the game, but the Cardinals went down that last drive and just moved the ball at will. And you don't expect that. You just figure the Giants do that, but not the Eagles. And it just goes to show you that, football is a very emotional game.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't play with emotion and urgency. Anybody can beat anybody. And that's what happened. And I feel confident with Giants. I think they're going to put a good effort. Just can't make mistakes like they have in the last few games.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the frustration with this rivalry, right? Like every now and then, I mean, a team like the Jets can beat the Eagles, the Cardinals can beat the Eagles. Last year, the Commanders beat the Eagles. They don't seem to have the issues the Giants do, and it's like,
I know.
Why can't the Giants ever just catch a break with this?
I don't know. That's a great point. The Giants seem to have their way with Washington, but Washington has their way with the Eagles. But the Giants can't beat the Eagles,
and we can't beat the Cowboys now either.
And that's right. It's amazing how that is. It's amazing. And I see the little ticker coming across. So the Giants only have one representative for the Pro Bowl, and that's going to be Dexter Lawrence.
Oh, has that been the news? It's just Dexter Lawrence.
I just see that coming up on here. Our good friend Chris has popped that up for us. And listen, this guy, what a godsend he's been for the Giants. And thank God that they gave him a contract. The Giants didn't follow that same trend what they have been with their defensive tackles, and let them walk. So that's great.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the Giants got him for a good contract to come back and everything like that. And what I always worry about with the guys that the Giants re-sign is that they're going to regress in their second contract. That does happen sometimes. I hate to say it because Craig's veins pop through his forehead when I say this, but it kind of happened with Leo just a little bit. He was still good with the run, but like the pass game was, he wasn't a pass attack anymore. And that's just an example. He's still a good locker room guy, everything like that, still talented. But, I'm glad to see Dex kept it up this year compared to last year. I mean, he really has made strides, and he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah. And, I'm looking at a couple of quotes in here. Yeah, I understand, Jay Farris. Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. Yeah, it is. It's becoming that, but we have eyes, and I don't think anybody can argue that Dexter Lawrence had a very good year.
No, totally.
He did play hurt too. He did play hurt. He's been banged up a bit, so Giants going to have to get probably another guy in there with him. Although I do like the two young guys that they have, Davison and Riley, but I like to see someone in there who can compliment him the way Leonard Williams did.
Yeah, and we're going a little off track, but there's one player that I think the Giants might give a look to. It's AJ Panisa up in Buffalo. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a defensive end.
I am.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's coming off such a great season. It might be a little bit expensive, but
he's an edge, right? He's an edge.
He's an edge, and he's from.
He's going to be expensive in free agency. He's going to be expensive.
Yeah. Well, he's the end. He's not outside because this is the 3-4, right? He's the end in the defensive end in the 3-4. He was at Iowa.
He's got his hand in the dirt most of the time, doesn't he?
Yes, he's got his hand in the dirt. Yeah, all right. That's a good. Why don't we just call it that? Dirt hand. Yeah, wait. That makes more sense.
3-point stance.
Yeah, because everybody gets too conflated with the edge in a 3-4 versus a 4-3 and everything like that. So yes, he's got his hand in the dirt. He's a Bills player, and so I just feel like it's natural for somebody like Dable to go after a guy that he knew up in Buffalo. So that might be a guy to go for because I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to draft anybody.
Yeah, well, they got 6 picks, and again, free agency and trades. So there are options, but
sure.
We can let's dive into a little bit of the numbers here.
Absolutely, you go first. What's some eye-popping ones?
Well, I'm gonna go. I'm a defensive guy, Spartan.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go defense, and I really don't want to go over every single stat here, but one I pointed out in the break. In turnovers, the Giants are actually ranked third in the NFL
Wow.
in turnovers. They got 27 turnovers. Eagles have 17. They're ranked 24th, I believe. Something like that. Yeah. Now, I mean, that's amazing that the Giants are ranked third and yet only have 5 wins. So that just shows you offensively how ineffective they will have been the whole year, really.
Well, can I ask you something? I mean, because this is actually truly amazing. Because even if you go back to the Giants' defenses of like the late 2000, like 07 and 2011, good defenses, but they weren't that great at turnovers. Every now and then they would get but that wasn't their specialty. But ever since Wink has been here, they've created a lot of turnovers. Like, why do you think that is? I'm trying to like put my head. Is it the way the defensive backs are in coverage? Is it a scheme thing? Like, what's giving this increase, you think?
Basically, in defense, you're taught to when you first guy usually holds the guy up, and then you got guys trying to strip the ball, and we see a lot of that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like I watched a show this Monday, and Adoree Jackson did that with the wide receiver on the Rams, tried to strip him, and the guy ran for like 50, 60 yards inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So, it's like you live and die with the sword. That's exactly what that is. So I don't sit there and analyze what Wink does on defense, but I know that they do try to strip a lot. I do notice that.
They do, and sometimes to a fault. Like, they'll give up the quality tackle and just try to strip the ball, right? And hey, look, when you get a turnover, great. But, if you don't, I mean, you let a tight end ride you for an extra 6 yards, like at San Francisco. I forget who that was that dragged the whole defense, but, that's the downside of it. So, I mean, that is an impressive stat for a team that's not very good. Crypto, by the way, we can't bring anyone's chats up right now. I don't have the manual control to do that. So I apologize, Crypto. And
just read. If you see something, just read it. Yeah, just read it.
Yeah, Crypto said we are +9 this year, which is insane for a team that is picking up the top of the draft. It's true. I mean, really think about it. If they were average in that category, what would our record be right now? 3 and 13.
Look at Chris, man. Chris is right on ball. Look at that guy. Chris heard you and he put it up there.
There it is, baby. Hell yeah.
You got Chris guys behind the scene controlling this for us. So
yeah, we can only have 2 people controlling. Craig's one of them and Chris is the other. So Chris, we appreciate what you're doing behind the scenes here. So
here's another defensive stat that I was shocked. I was shocked. 3rd down conversions allowed. The Giants are ranked 7th. So
7th best or 7th worst?
No, 7th best. They've been very good.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
No, wait, hold on. 7th worst. My bad.
37%.
My bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's forget that, folks.
Yeah, because I was going to say last year they did an okay job on 3rd down. This year, I mean, it's been pretty crappy. Sometimes I feel like it's the expensive blitzing on 3rd down, which Wink loves to do.
Well, you live and die with it, right? You live and die with it.
Right.
It's normal.
It's the only thing I kind of criticize him on because sometimes you just kind of want guys back in coverage on 3rd and 8. And I mean, last time they played the Eagles, it was a freaking 3rd and 20, and they got they got the yards. So yeah. I think that's one thing. Just dropping the coverage more on 3rd down. Every now and then you get the sack and the whole crowd goes nuts. But, when you convert your 3rd down, you let them convert the 3rd downs, they're going to score points.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, of course, you got the Eagles right now. I know it's down from last year. They had 70 sacks last year. They only have 41. But it's still 12 more than what the Giants have.
Yeah.
And I believe we're going to have Matt Pert starting at right tackle this week, and he'll be going against what's his name, Reddick. So that's gonna be an interesting matchup right there. Yeah. That could be a nightmare for Tyrod Taylor. So
I would say the Giants did a good job against the Eagles a couple weeks ago on the offensive line. I was very impressed.
Matt Pert wasn't there.
So. That's true. I mean, listen, this is the one thing that's super disappointing about the Giants. there's some teams, it seems like no matter who you put in the back there at offensive line, they still manage to do fine. When the Giants put anybody back there at defensive back, they do better than I expect, right? So I kind of feel it there. But with the offensive line, the starters are bad, and then the backups go in, and it's a complete nightmare. So, Pert has not developed at all into a player that you can rely on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, like every game, in the trenches is going to be very important in this game. And
yeah.
And listen, of course, anything can happen. You got some games going on this Sunday that could determine where the Giants finish. If the Giants lose, they're going to finish with the number 5, the 5th pick in the draft, no matter what happens. If they lose, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I thought if they lose.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Let me just say this. If the top 4 teams ahead of them all lose, everybody loses, the Giants will finish the 5th pick.
Yes.
I think if New England wins and they get 5 wins, and Giants lose, the Giants will move up a spot because of the strength of schedule.
Yes, but if those teams lose, I mean, it would have to be all of them. Then they get a better pick if the Giants lose.
If those teams lose and the Giants lose?
They can move up to the 2nd pick, yep.
They can move up. Yeah, that's right. If Washington loses and
I'm sorry, for the Giants to move up to the 2nd pick, all those other teams would have to win. Washington, Arizona, New England. If the Giants win and everybody else loses, I forget what happens. If the Giants win and everybody else
Giants win, it don't matter what the other guys do right in front of them. It's what San Diego does, right? San Diego and Tennessee, they both have 5 wins.
Right. Even though, I mean, I can't understand for the life of me how the Chargers are that bad. That must be the worst coaching staff of all time. They have talent.
Well, isn't the quarterback out, Herbert? Is he out?
Yeah, but they still suck with him. And he was pretty highly touted recruit, and he was playing okay at first, and has obviously shown pretty good flashes. But like the Chargers, if the Chargers get Harbaugh next year, they're going to automatically be an unbelievable team. But until then, yeah, they had one of the worst years. Like I couldn't even believe how bad they were.
Right. So I guess though the perfect scenario is the Giants lose, and everybody in front of them wins, and the Giants move up to number 2 because they have the worst strength of schedule of anybody of that group.
Correct.
I'm not even worried about that because I think they're going to get a good player at 5. So I don't really care. I'm fine with it.
No, I completely understand. A lot of people harp on the pick, but a couple of things. They still got to get it right. And if Shane really likes it, I'm like, if Shane wants to trade up or do whatever he needs to do to figure out, like, to get the right players in place and it works, then I don't care. He can do whatever he needs to as long as it works out. That's all I say.
Yeah, that's true. It should be interesting. But, let's get back to the Eagles. You made a good point about Sirianni. There's rumor in the rumor mill that he's on the hot seat. So if he happens to lose this game, they have a good chance of not winning that division, right? If Dallas wins. Is that correct?
Correct. They blow the division. It goes to Dallas.
And they become a wild card, and then they would play. Would they play the West? Would they play?
They would play the
49ers?
They would play the worst wild card winner, which is actually
they play the wild card winner first, right? They play wild card first, right?
Yeah, they play Tampa.
So Tampa is right now the other wild card?
I think they're the NFC South winner. Yep. Okay. Let me see real quick. Yep, Buccaneers are in first place. However, it could be the Saints. It could be the Saints this weekend, which is very likely.
So both wild cards play against each other in the playoffs? Is that how it works?
So no, there's 7 teams that make the playoffs, and so sometimes it gets
a bye
here. Only one team gets a bye. It'll be
49ers.
49ers. Then it's the best NFC, the best division winner, which will be I think either the Eagles or Cowboys. It could be the Lions too, right? They'd get the 2 seed. Whoever wins the division, that 2 seed will play the 7 seed. So they'll play the crappiest wild card team to make it, which I have to look at the playoffs playoff picture right now. But hold on, NFL playoff picture.
Well, yeah. Well, if you have a bye, if 49ers have a bye, then Detroit would play the worst team. That's going to be playing.
If Detroit gets the 2 seed, they play the worst team.
Right.
But I think both the Cowboys and the Eagles would have to lose for Detroit to be able to pull that off, and they would have to win.
Right. So here, Mark is telling us right here. Chris, if you're watching, pull up Mark on the bottom. So seed, he says, there you go. Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
So we all know about the first seed getting the bye. So seed 2 plays seed 7, 3 plays 6, 4, 5. So we have to figure out who they are right now. If they all win, who would be the seeds? Who would be the teams?
Yeah, I believe it is. Hold up. Let me pull it up. All right, if the season ends today, San Francisco's the 1 seed. Then it's Dallas at 2, Detroit at 3, Tampa at 4. Tampa would play Philadelphia because Philly would be the 5 seed. The 6 seed would be the Rams, and they would play the Lions. And the 7 seed is the Packers. They would play the Cowboys.
Okay.
All right. So okay. I know it's a little weird. It's a little tough to keep track of, but that's how it's going to lay out here.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Eagles do have a lot on the line, but a lot of times people, when they bet these sporting events, they'll look and say, hey, the Eagles are playing for the division, therefore they're going to play harder. And that's kind of true, but that means they're also playing with pressure. And so, how does that affect how they're going to play against the Giants who have nothing to play for? I don't
exactly.
I tend to find that generally, like, the losing team, the worst team generally wins those ones. The Giants have an opportunity to stun them because the Eagles are playing for a lot right now, and that means they're playing with pressure. Sirianni's playing for his job. Who would have thought?
No. And you're right, Spartan. The team that has everything to lose can play with a little bit of, like a little noose around their neck. And Giants have nothing to lose, man. Just let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Go, right? Hopefully they do that. Hopefully 4th and 1, they go for it. And, don't just give the ball to Barkley up the middle. Be creative with your 4th and 1s, and if you're going to go for it, have faith in your quarterback and your receivers. Don't make it too obvious and too predictable.
Yeah. Hold up, Crypto. You're saying the Eagles should try to win. It's crazy not to care. Yeah, no. Obviously, the Eagles are playing to win. That's not the question. The Eagles are certainly going to try to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Eagles are playing for the division. They're not going to not lay down.
Oh, yeah. Any home game is vital. Any home game is vital.
It's the Giants I'm worried about. If they have a good culture, this is very telling, and Carl Banks talked about it. If the Giants go out there on all cylinders next week and give them a run for their money, that'll be, that's a good for the culture, whether they win or lose, right?
Yes,
if the Giants go out there next week and don't try or seem careless, that's not good. That's bad.
Yeah, it is bad. It is bad. Like, when we see, like we talked about this last week, I believe, you see players jogging after a runner, like we mentioned, that's not good. That's not good. And hopefully the coaching staff sees that. You want to see effort, and these guys have a lot of pride. They should, and I'm sure if Carl Banks is watching him, he knows that. You never see him take a day off, a play off. Never, when he played.
No.
So you got to question guys who are doing that right now because they're 5-11. They don't want to give all the effort. But these guys are fighting for jobs. I would say there's only a couple of players on the Giants that their job is safe. I would say.
Yeah, there's only a few.
Yeah. So everybody, they're fighting for next year for a spot on the roster. They're fighting for it, where the coaches feel confident in them to go into next year. If you jog after plays, that's really not going to be very good for them.
No. Expect Sterling Shepard to go out there, guns blazing, because he wants it.
It's probably his last game as a Giant, right? His last game as a Giant. We know that, right?
And Saquon's a free agent, so this is going to be, possibly his last game too.
Yep.
So. And if it's not his last game with the Giants, it's going to be his last. It's a trial run, right? He's got to show.
I think so. Yep, I know what you're saying. I agree. I think it could be. I think it's more tipping towards his last game as a Giant than it is the other way. I think that's just my
Absolutely.
opinion. That's my opinion.
No,
You know,
I agree. Also, New York Giants Rush is commenting. I can't tell if that's Craig commenting or if it's
where is that?
I can't tell if it's Craig or Chris. Somebody sold their tickets between one of them. Like, oh, guys, come on, please tell me you sold them to Giants fans. Seeing that there's the line "Fib sucks," which isn't true.
That was Craig. It says that was Craig. Where does it say that about the tickets?
Up further.
Oh, I just sold my tickets.
Come on, Craig.
God.
Come on, Craig. Please tell me a Giants fan bought them.
Let's see if he responds.
Truth, do you think Fib sucks?
Do I think who sucks?
Kayvon Thibodeau?
I don't think he sucks. I just think he needs to be more well-rounded. I think sometimes he I see sometimes he gets disappears on run support, but I don't think he sucks.
Yeah, okay. Just because Craig thinks he sucks. He put it in the comments section.
Oh, I see it now. He's just trying to he's just trying to mess around with us here.
Good. And he owes me, damn it. By the way, we haven't talked about it, but I have to congratulate myself because I won the Rush Fantasy. Remember that, Craig? Craig's like, we're gonna do a fantasy football league, and I ran it because Craig needs somebody to do it. And the winner of the league, one of our fans would get a prize. Well, I actually ended up winning the league. So even though I was just trying to manage it, but I accidentally drafted a good team. And so I do win. However, I will not be getting the grand prize as we just don't feel it's appropriate.
It might be rigged. It might be rigged.
Yeah, no, we can't. We can't do that. We want to give our fans back something. So congratulations to Joe out there. Joe, you won the prize. I don't know if Craig announced what the prize is, but yeah, Joey D won. But congratulations to you, Joey D. That was awesome. The Ballers League. The season comes to an end. I'll try less. What's that?
When I look at the Eagles, I look at their, the frustration from last week. I'm going to focus on this week. I'm going to look at a couple of players. AJ Brown is an interesting guy. They showed him on the sidelines last week when they lost that game. He was like a little kid who lost his puppy dog. He looked so disgusted, so frustrated that I think he's gonna have a great game this game. Against the Giants. I really do. I think this guy's gonna come out with guns blazing. And he's gonna try to get this team back on track. Because they're gonna have to turn it around when the playoffs come. They can't play like this in the playoff times. They're not gonna get far. So that's one down watching. Yeah, and Ferris, Jay Ferris is asking if Banks playing. Usually on Thursday they come out with the reports, and we're not going to know for sure. I don't know for sure if he's playing or not. If it's questionable, I wouldn't play him.
I wouldn't play him either. Just let any rookie or anybody with an injury or is really healing. I got to say the Giants have been more aggressive in the last couple of years under Dable of putting the guys who have been injured out there. I've just noticed that the Giants used to be super conservative. There's one thing I criticize a little bit with Dable. It's that they put the injured guy out there, and it's like you really got to let him heal, otherwise it's just going to get worse. So it's just one nitpick thing that I have.
Yeah, let's not even get into the Evan Neal thing with his mixed diagnosis with his ankle. That is really bad. That's really bad for NFL medical staff to not see this. And it's not like it's just happened. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
So that's bad.
That was bad. But apparently it actually happened. By the way, guys, so here's a little inside information. I know a degree of separation from the medical staff of the Giants. Apparently what happened with Evan Neal, so get ready for this truth, is that he actually got hurt during the rehab process. Like it wasn't that they missed his injury beforehand. There's very few people that have this information. I'm not trying to sound like I'm the coolest person in the world, but Somebody called me from Twitter immediately and told me exactly what happened. It was an injury during the rehab process. It was not
Okay.
a miss by the medical staff.
And how long was he rehabbing when they did an MRI on his ankle to see it was actually broken?
I'm not sure. I actually don't know. I don't know at what point during the rehab it happened and how long after that rehab injury, he went still walking as if it was something else, right? But going from sprained to broken, that's bad.
Yeah, and this reliable resource, is it reliable? This informant
Yes,
that you
I don't. I mean, trust me. There's a lot of people not worth trusting on Twitter. However, you heard it here first. I heard it from a very reliable source. Exactly what happened. So take that as you will. And even though because we really come down to the medical staff a lot of times because of what Scott Simonson was tweeting a couple years ago, the constant injuries, and we sit here and do we have the most up-to-date medical staff? I don't even necessarily think that I'm not going to give my opinion on that, but this one's on the rehab process. It's not on the medical staff.
Yeah. I see here by Mark, he brought up on the top, Chris, if you see it, about the Eagles lost both coordinators. What do you think? Yeah, why do you think this wouldn't be affected? But that would hold true a lot, Mark, if the Eagles struggled early in the season, but they were dominant.
Exactly. I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah. So this is like the last 5 games, right? They've lost. They're 1-4, aren't they, Spartan?
Yep.
The last 5 games.
Yes.
And they beat the Giants, and they should have lost that game. Seriously.
Of course. We all knew that was going to happen. If there was going to be if somebody told us there was going to be a 5-game stretch where the Eagles lose 4 games and the Giants are in that mix, we know damn well the one win would have been against the Giants. Yeah, no, you're right. I agree. And Mark, I mean, a lot of times when a new coordinator goes in, I mean, it's hit or miss to how much it really affects it. I remember one in particular when we lost Spags in 2009, and he went to the Rams. We had some guy. I'm trying to remember his name.
It was a heavy guy.
Bill Sheridan, right? Sheridan.
Oh, Sheridan. Yeah, and he became a head coach with them too. That's right.
Not
Sheridan. He became a head coach too with them for 1 year.
Did he? Okay, he was just the defensive coordinator. Then he went to Miami after that. He only was with us for 1 year.
Are you sure he wasn't a head coach with them? Someone look it up. Mark, you're good at this stuff.
Yeah, Bill Sheridan.
Did he ever coach the Giants?
All right, after the Giants, he went.
Yeah, Bill Sheridan. I remember they started the season 5-0, and then they went downhill because the schedule got tougher.
5-5.
I don't know what year that was.
That was 09. That was the year after 08.
That was 09? Okay.
Yep, 09. And that was Bill Sheridan. He was a one-and-done defensive coach.
Yeah, like Bill was it Haley, right? Healy? The other coach we had, Healy. Henley. What the heck was his name?
Ray Hanley?
Ray Hanley. Another guy, 1 year and done.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, he was a head coach. He was bad. He was so bad.
Yeah.
But I got to be careful. I actually know people. I know people in Michigan that know Bill Sheridan, and I got to be careful like what I say about that dude. But that was the pinnacle of a crappy defense for the Giants. Like that was like, what in the world happened? And then they got Perry Fewell, and everything was fine. Craig brought that information up. But anyway, back to the point, Mark. I totally agree with Truth. If they were struggling early in the year, it would have been like, well, coordinator turnover. But the fact that they're getting crappier now is very weird. But the offensive coordinator is not well liked at all by the Eagles fans. I know that.
Oh, you do? Okay. And they had they had what's his name come in to take over the defensive assignment for the new guy too. Patricia, right? Is that who it is?
Yeah, Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I mean, weren't the Eagles averaging like 40 points a game in the beginning of the year? Weren't they putting points on the board?
They were pouring it on. They looked just as good as last year.
Yeah, they were pouring it on. Yeah. So
right. The only bad game they had was the Jets. That was the only loss.
Yeah, and Jets are a good defensive team.
Yeah.
Jets are a good defensive team. If they had a healthy Aaron Rodgers guys this whole year, the Jets would be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They really would be. They got a good team. They really do.
what's your fine? Tell you what, I mean, now that we're down this stretch, man, we got a whole heated section. I can't even bring it up right now.
Well, just let Chris know. He'll pop it up.
I hated Patrick Graham from Crypto. Now we're just talking about all the defensive coordinators. Perry Fuel was terrible. Really, Mark? I mean, that's pretty extreme for even somebody. I mean, you're very modest in your evaluations about anybody, but you thought Perry Fuel was that bad. He was. They weren't as good as they were under Spags, but I felt like 2010 and 2011 seemed a little bit better than 2009.
Yeah, and that's not fair because Spags is good. I don't get me wrong, but he had a defensive line. All those guys were in their peaks. They were in their prime. You had OC, you had Strahan going to his last couple of years, and you had the young kid who they just drafted, right? JPP, was he there when Spags was there, or he left?
Spags never had JPP.
Okay, he had Tuck though. He had Tuck. That's right.
He had Tuck.
Yeah, I mean he had some players,
He did, but he did come back for the Giants in 2015 for a few years, and the defense was okay during that stretch. I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean it was the only reason we didn't go 0-16 in 2017, and then he leaves us to go to the Chiefs to win Super Bowls. Right? He probably doesn't miss the Giants one bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah, so I mean, look, let's just talk before we end this. Let's talk about matchups real quick. Okay. What do the Giants have to do in order to win this game? Where do they have to focus on? What did they blow last time? I'm going to give you one thing that I saw last time they got to fix. The run. Yeah. The defense against the run was awful last game. They have got to figure that out. That was one of the worst I've ever seen.
Okay, so I'll look up it real quick. So they allow rushing yards the Giants allow 132 yards a game. That's 29th in the league. And the Eagles are 11th, only 103. So there you go. That's very important.
Yeah.
It's very important. And the Giants did the same thing last year, right? Spartan, they allowed like 148 yards a game. That's why they brought in Robinson and what's his name? Roche Nunez.
Robinson. Yeah.
Robinson. That's why they brought those big guys in, and they drafted and Riley too, Jordan Riley, because they needed to try to solidify the run. But they got a little better, right? 16 less yards a game, but still, you want to be in the low 100s or below 100. That's where you're talking top 10 when you're in that area, And
I totally agree.
Yeah, and every team wants to do that. And obviously, you need the horses to do that. But I agree with you. They're going to have to figure out win the battle in trenches, right? Either stop the run or slow down the blitz, because the Eagles will have, I think, a little bit more opportunity this week with Pert there. Because who's after Pert? If Pert fails and doesn't do well, who is there in his spot? You're going to have to put Pugh there. You're going to put
a guard there.
Yeah, and that's not good. That's not good.
No, okay? You do not want to be in this situation. Marcus McKeithen, I mean, they might have to put him there, and it's not a spot. I don't know. Like, at one point, they just run out of linemen, right? But you're right. They'll probably have to move Pugh over.
Yeah, and then another thing, they got to continue the turnover. They got to get turnovers.
Because, they have to.
Talked about this last week. The Giants aren't going to take the ball from their 20 to 25-yard line and move it all the way down the field and score a touchdown. And they may do that. They're not going to do it a lot. So field position is important for them. So a turnover, get the ball in the other team and the other team's side of the 50-yard line. That's shorten the field. They need things like that. They need breaks, just like they got against Philly last time. Philly made us right. They've turned the ball over on a kickoff. The guy fell down and an interception by Jackson scores. They need breaks. And they got to execute. They execute, they win that game.
Mark brings up an interesting point. Implement a 5-man front from the Rams game, or similar to what the Rams did, so I can stop against the run. Look, they got to do something.
No, right? They'll get picked apart. So if they do that, you're saying the Giants need to have a 5-man front? Is that what you're saying?
Mark is suggesting that they implement the 5-man front the Rams have just to stop the run game, which is very interesting. I mean, I don't see that very often.
No, and so you're going to have a lot of one-on-one with with the wide receivers, right? If you do that,
Yeah, it would have to be mostly man coverage, and you'd have to trust your wide receivers to be able to cover or the cornerbacks to cover the wide receivers at that point.
that's
So
a tough thing. That's tough. That's tough.
that's not easy.
I don't know. Can it help? Can it help? Yeah, maybe it can help. It can hurt them, but it's like you live and die with the sword there if you do that.
You do. You know what? Yeah, but hey, listen. On that note, the Giants can just go out there and just go AWOL. Just
go AWOL.
Go take risks. Go ahead and put a 5-man front down there.
Look
Don't play conservative defense. Don't play cushion defense or soft zone. Go out there and whatever it takes. Get to the quarterback. Get to the running back. Just go out there and lay it all out there. There's nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah, look at Craig put down over there. Chris, you see that? A 5-1-5?
5-1-5? I'd be curious to see how that works out. 5-1-5 and do a ton of stunts to confuse the offensive line. I love me some stunts.
Yeah, you have two secondary guys blitzing in that package.
Yes, and have all the defensive tackles dropping the coverage.
So I didn't look at the snaps on defense. Craig saying that the Giants ran a 5-man front 50% of the time last week. I'll take his word on that. I didn't take note of that. I didn't concentrate on that. So
didn't notice that one either. But anyway, Truth. Any final thoughts on this game?
Well, I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Giants are going to play with a lot of heart, a lot of emotion. They will. They're not going to lay down and die for the Philadelphia Eagles. And yes, they could win this game. They could win this game. A lot of people aren't going to be happy with that because it will affect their draft position. But they could win this game. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be like the last game, Spartan. I think it's going to be just like the last game. If the Giants can avoid ill-advised mistakes like they did last game, they have a chance to win this game. They do. I think it's going to be a close game within the last 5 minutes.
Let's see what they can do.
I think over and under, right? Over and under, to talk about over. I think it's going to be around 50 points total. Something like that.
I would imagine somewhere in that ballpark, like 28, 20, 23, something like that. I do think the Eagles pull away with it, just the way things have gone, but I think the Giants give them a run for their money.
Yeah. I mean, if I have to say who wins, I think if I had to put money on the game, I think the Eagles will squeeze this out and win it. Because, like you said, a lot's on the line for them. A lot's on the line. You know, and they have a lot of guys who've been there before, so they'll be ready for this game.
Yep,
they will be.
Well, in any event, Truth, it has been a pleasure doing the show with you this evening. Hopefully, the Giants take care of business and just get her done. You know what I'm saying? So I'd love to see it. I hate the Eagles, and I would love to see a W in this victory column against them. Go Giants. God bless, and thank you all who came out tonight.
Yep, guys. Take care.